Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to talk about celebrities and chronic illness and why this is important. As we all know, this video is probably uploading later, but we just got the news, I believe it was this week or this past week, that Celine Dion was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune condition known as stiff person syndrome. And if you're familiar with my channel, you know that I was diagnosed with stiff person syndrome in late 2018. And if you want more information about stiff person syndrome, I have an entire playlist that I am compiling. So some videos will be up, some videos may not be up yet, but there is a playlist called Stiff Person Syndrome if you want to know more about that condition. But really, as much as I would like to raise awareness for it, it has not come to the forefront of our minds until now because of Celine Dion's diagnosis. And so I wanted to talk about what celebrities who come forward and who are open about their condition, what they do for the rest of us, and sort of what that does in general for those of us who are sick, for our families, because it is very, very important. And we've actually seen this a lot with Selma Blair, with all the stuff that she's been doing since her MS diagnosis. Of course, it is very, very sad, and I did talk about this in my reactions to Celine Dion's diagnosis video. If you haven't seen that, it should be in my Stiff Person Syndrome playlist. It is horrible for those of us that actually have these conditions to see our celebrities, fall from grace, so to speak. I mean, it's awful, I think, for anybody to see that, but especially for those of us who have the condition and who know what it feels like. I think it's especially heart-wrenching to see these people who are, who were these, almost these idols. For example, Michael J. Fox, who was this like teen idol and then, went into these kind of like action movies, or, he had his whole life ahead of him. And then to kind of see what has happened to him since then, because he was diagnosed rather young with Parkinson's. So it is hard. And a lot of people, are basically, none of us would ever wish our condition on anybody, especially a celebrity. But I mean, we're not in control of that. And when a celebrity is diagnosed and they decide to, because not all of them do, there are celebrities out there that have medical conditions and issues that have decided not to say anything, or just to kind of, deal with their condition in private. It does make a huge difference when they decide to, and it's a big decision for them as well, to speak openly about it. And I am curious to see whether Celine Dion will continue to sort of become an advocate or deal with her condition privately. But there have been big names recently. Selma Blair, who I believe even her name got even bigger after she came out with her MS diagnosis. Christina Applegate, who I've seen on TV since I was a kid. Michael J. Fox, of course. And Magic Johnson as well, which I'm going to talk about a little bit in a little bit. What this does is it brings awareness and visibility to conditions that would otherwise just be overlooked. For example, multiple sclerosis. I knew about multiple sclerosis, but it's actually, I Googled it one day and it's actually considered rare. I didn't think that it was considered rare, because if I know somebody in real life that has it, I've known, not personally known two people, but friends of friends, or, friends of family. One person that actually died from multiple sclerosis. So it wasn't something that was like, that I thought was rare, but it's considered rare. And I think once a celebrity comes out, announcing that they have that condition, it's no longer rare, at least in our minds. And now we have Selma Blair and Christina Applegate that both have it. And, it's really, MS has come to the forefront big time in the last few years. So it brings visibility to the conditions. It brings so much more than that. it brings understanding, it brings compassion. And the reason why it's important, not just for celebrities to announce it, but to sort of put themselves out there with the condition. And it's difficult, especially, we saw with Selma Blair, it was affecting her walking, it was affecting her talking. But she really just went for it, and she did push through, especially before her stem cell transplant. She really pushed through, did the interview, even with her speech as effective as it was. Why? Because she wanted people to see what this condition looks like. And I met someone, my ex-husband's sister's good friend. She had MS, but she had a different type of MS. So she looked more or less normal. She didn't have any issues with her walking or anything like that. But there are different types of MS. And seeing celebrities be open about it, for example, multiple celebrities like Selma Blair and Christina Applegate, shows us that there is a spectrum that these diseases occur on. Some of them are very severe, like with Selma Blair. Some of them are, in the middle. Some of them are more mild. And so they bring visibility. And Selma Blair really did that. I mean, we saw her in a really bad flare, struggling to speak, struggling to walk. And those were things that I didn't even know about multiple sclerosis, because my only experience had been with someone that had it mildly. My brother's friend actually had it very, very severely. I never met him while he had the condition, and he passed away from it. So, there is a spectrum. And when celebrities put themselves out there, we actually can see what these conditions manifest as. And we saw that a lot with Michael J. Fox as well, which we always think of Parkinson's as sort of being like a shakiness. And we see that it also affects his speech pattern. It affects his facial expressions, things like that. So it increases our compassion for people that have these conditions. So if you know someone that has multiple sclerosis, but you don't really know much about it, now you may have more compassion for that person, more understanding, less judgment about that person. Maybe that person only works part-time and you're thinking, well, why do they work part-time? They seem fine. But then you see a celebrity that can no longer work. I mean, they're doing interviews, but they can no longer work. And you're just like, oh, well, now I can see why, or I understand better, because they're speaking about the condition. So it just helps a lot. It legitimizes these conditions, especially for those of us that have them who are not celebrities. It makes other people around us probably take it more seriously. The big thing that celebrities have done, apart from raise awareness, Selma Blair did the documentary. She wrote a book. She's done interviews. That her documentary was about her treatment, with this sort of what's considered an experimental treatment for multiple sclerosis. It raised awareness of that treatment, that there is this other treatment option. But there are other celebrities, for example, Michael J. Fox, that actually start foundations. And this is where it really, really helps out, actual, people who are suffering with these conditions. His foundation is a multi-million dollar. I mean, it's raised millions and millions of dollars. And just as one example, in 2016, it's called the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research, I believe. In 2016, in a single raffle that his foundation did, they raised $6.75 million in a single raffle. That's one raffle. And keep in mind, these foundations are, they do multiple fundraisers a year. They have private donors. That's the other thing too, is that when a celebrity speaks out about these types of things, they get their friends, their famous celebrity friends, their director friends, their producer friends, all these people that make the big bucks in Hollywood to donate to these different organizations that fund research and clinical trials and things like that for these conditions. And also, what's very, very important is that it raises awareness for legitimate foundations that fund research, because there's been a lot of controversy over like breast cancer foundations and other types of foundations that raise money for research. And I think when a celebrity attaches their name to one, for example, the Michael J. Fox Foundation, which is his foundation, they need to be legit and they need to have all their bases covered, because they don't want to get in trouble, and they don't want a foundation like that to get in trouble and be attached to their name. So he has a legitimate 501c3 foundation, and people know that if they donate to his foundation, every cent, as much as possible, is going to go to research. And I mean, like I said, it's multi-million. I think it was like 90 something million dollars. So, he, and even if they don't have their own foundation, they can raise awareness and talk about foundations that they know are legitimate, because again, you don't want to attach your name to something or be promoting something that is not legitimate, and where you're not going to know where the money is going. So they point you in the right direction if you want to donate. The other thing too that's cool about, and Michael J. Fox, he really, like, if you want to see a perfect example of a celebrity that is using their star power to raise money, raise awareness, but also point people in the direction, people with the condition, towards clinical trials. He has a clinical trial finder. It's called the Fox Trial Finder on his website for his foundation, where you can find clinical trials for Parkinson's so that you can participate in them. I mean, that's amazing. He's the, like I said, he would be the prime example of someone who really took their celebrity status and said, I'm using my face and putting it with this disease, and I'm going to do it right. And he's really doing it. Magic Johnson, I actually was looking into Magic Johnson, and I don't think he does have a foundation, but it's more of a community foundation. But what Magic Johnson did for HIV and AIDS is he reduced the stigma. And that's another thing that celebrities, they can increase the stigma if they don't know how to do this properly, but he actually reduced the stigma for HIV and AIDS. He did retire. He announced his condition in 1991, and he retired because at the time there was a lot of, people didn't really know, or they didn't really acknowledge that AIDS couldn't be passed by contact, like just casual contact. And he retired, and then he did come back, I think, to play basketball. And he used his image and his persona to reduce stigma, to reduce stereotypes. He made people aware you cannot get this by just touching someone. So if I'm playing basketball with someone, I'm not going to give them AIDS or HIV. It's not just a gay disease. He really did a lot for that disease, and he could have easily been ashamed, been embarrassed, and hid himself in his millions and just lived his life. And he did not. The other thing that he did was, and you can actually see, I actually read this, because there was a lot, and there's been documentaries made about this, the AIDS crisis was people were just not, doctors were not responding to it properly, and treatment options were not good. They were actually making people even more sick. And once better treatment options came along, they weren't accessible to non-celebrities or people that didn't have a lot of money. And what Magic Johnson did was he pushed to make them more available to everyone else. And so you see that from, let me see, he announced in 1991 that he was HIV positive, and from the 90s forward there was an increased push for funding for these treatments, the treatments that were actually going to help people with HIV and AIDS. So that's what star power can do. And like I said, he could have easily hid in his shell, because this is a disease that had a lot of stigma, tons and tons of stigma. And he said no. He actually said, I want to be the face, the spokesman for HIV. And he did, and he did it. And he was a big time guy. I remember hearing about Magic Johnson when I was a kid. He's a big time basketball player. And that's what celebrities do. They help to bring, sadly, because of their condition, they help to bring some joy and a sense of community for those of us that have it, because now we know that people are going to know about this. People are going to know about our suffering. For example, with Celine having this rare disease, we were virtually invisible until like last week. You know what I mean? Nobody knew anything. They didn't even know that SPS existed, and now the entire world knows. Celine is a worldwide celebrity, and everybody in the world knows her. She's big. I mean, she's huge. Probably one of the biggest names, probably the biggest name that I've mentioned in this video. And like I said, I don't know what direction she's going to take. She has every right to live her life in private, especially if she is in a lot of pain. But just the fact that she announced it herself in her own words, was just incredible for those of us. We're not happy that she has this condition, but it brought us together as a community, and we are happy to be seen now. And of course, like I said, that can bring funding to this, to research for this condition. And she herself, she's an incredibly wealthy person. She may decide to donate, even if she doesn't start an organization, she may decide to donate and contribute to funding, because that funding is also going to benefit her in the long run. It sparks curiosity as well. And I did talk about this in my reactions to Celine video, where in the Facebook groups that I belong to, there's two for SPS. There are journalists that are joining the Facebook groups because they want to interview people with SPS, and there have already been interviews that have aired on TV, like in local. It raises a local interest, which as a whole raises awareness. And there have been local TV stations that have interviewed people that they have found in their areas that have SPS. And of course, journalists are going to write articles on SPS. What is it? They're going to be interviewing doctors as well, and we're already seeing this. There was a journalist from Australia that was looking for someone in Australia to interview. So we're seeing this now, and she just announced it. It's important for people with the condition to speak out. And there have been, for example, with AIDS, I know that Princess Diana, she advocated a lot for that condition as well, and she reduced the stigma herself. But I think it's important for people with the disease to speak out about it. Number one, because that they're speaking from experience, and they can actually tell you this is what it feels like. They can actually show you this is what it looks like. This is how this illness manifests. So I think it's important for the person that has it, because it gives it some legitimacy. The other reason too is that people that don't have the condition, I'm not saying anything specific about Princess Diana or anybody that has participated, in AIDS research or in AIDS funding, or somebody like Dr. Fauci, who is, who studies infectious diseases. But there could always be ulterior motives, whether it's money, whether it's, raising your own celebrity or making yourself look better. A person that has the disease doesn't have those interests. I mean, yes, they want to raise money, but they're going to raise money for, an organization. Michael J. Fox, he's put himself out there, and we have seen him decline, in real time. And it's hard to see that. And he's aware of what he looks like. Trust me, all of these people are aware of what they look like. And for them to put it out there is, it is brave, but it's also legit to me. You know, they're not looking to be labeled a saint or a martyr, um, because at times it's embarrassing. And I've seen multiple interviews with Selma Blair, and she struggles even after her stem cells. She has struggled, and it's not easy, especially after being a celebrity, after being this revered person in the public eye. It's not easy for them to do that. You know, Magic Johnson, you know, there was so much stigma around HIV, and he said, I'm going to put myself out there. And he knew that there would be consequences, which is probably why he retired, um, you know, because he didn't want to get fired or, you know, something like that. So it's important with these people, you know, that these people speak out. And they can also call out inaccuracies, you know, because even a doctor or even a journalist, even though they've researched and studied this illness, it's different when you actually experience it. And you can actually call out inaccuracies and say, hey, this is not being accurately reported, or this is not being accurately funded, or given the right amount of attention that it should be given, which is what Magic Johnson did. That's why you saw this push for funding after he announced that he had HIV, because he was like, okay, I see what's going on. I have access to treatment, but so many other people don't. So we need to make this more accessible. And you know, he kind of brought that to the forefront. And I've heard that in the past, that, you know, Magic Johnson got to live this long life. He's still alive because he had the money to afford treatment. And so he brought that awareness to the public. I don't know if he actually said it, but just the fact that he was this wealthy guy with HIV that's lived like a normal life, you know, he did bring, you know, that injustice to the forefront. However, um, uh, you know, inadvertently, you know, he it may not have been deliberate, you know, he still brought that, that awareness. So, you know, I think I've covered a lot. I mean, I could go on and on, but this video, it's going to cut me off soon. But to me, you know, it's so important that celebrities speak out, because, you know, they're using their platform, they're using their face and their image to help us. You know, even if they're not themselves funding or starting an organization or anything like that, just by speaking out, they are helping us, and bringing visibility to us, and hopefully making doctors pay attention as well. So many thanks to all of these people that I mentioned, because they've helped so much, especially helping marginalized communities, that are just put to the side and ignored, you know. And so I'm incredibly grateful, and I know a lot of us who are chronically ill are grateful to the people that have, even put their celebrity at risk to raise awareness and raise funds for the rest of us. So thank you so much for joining me. If you have any other, you know, if you know anything else, any other celebrities that have helped you in your journey, or helped raise awareness of your condition, leave it down in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.